All right, so we're going to talk about grouping plants, right? Something you know a lot about.
Yes, grouping of plants.
Okay.
Versus plants in one line.
Right, one line, okay.
And you know, you think about, you have small places in front of a house, and typically people will buy one type of plant,
Yeah.
and they just plant, you know, in one row, and that's all they do.
I'm guilty of that.
It's
Okay.
and that's what a lot of the builder grade things are. Maybe they change a plant here or
Yeah.
two, but it's basically just a line of plants. Well, let's make it interesting.
Okay,
You
let's
can
do
do something interesting in that line.
All right.
Use perennials. Use triangular shaped placement of your plants. Like instead of in one line, smaller plants maybe in a zigzag pattern, and then not the same plant. And then add some perennials and some annuals and do something different. Bulbs, plant bulbs in the ground so you have different colors and different things coming up during throughout the year. So
Okay.
it changes
I like
and
that.
is interesting. Of course, you're going to use your design principles. You know, texture. Is it coarse? Is it medium? Is it fine? But you don't want just one of those. You want to mix it up so that there is a much more interesting grouping of plants. Also, the shape and the color.
Yeah.
You know, the shape, you could have an upright, oval, round, horizontal, vase-shaped with ornamental grasses, all sorts of things to break up that linear patterns.
Okay.
And you got to think about it. Your house is a flat horizontal surface. The yard and the sidewalk is a horizontal. Don't just put plants in a line. That just keeps emphasizing a horizontal surface.
That makes sense.
When you mix up, you know, and do triangular shapes and do different textures and colors, you're going to break up all of that and make a much more interesting grouping of plants to look at. And we had a schematic, we've talked before. It shows the plants overhead the way you would draw them on a piece of paper, and then when they have a 3D image of what they are, and you see how tall, some of them things are tall, some of them are medium shaped, and then some are smaller. So that's the kind of thing that we are looking for. Okay. And you don't just use shrubs. You can use a tree here and there. You can use perennials, annuals, bulbs, everything. So you can incorporate a lot of things in a small space.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be a whole lot. First, you got to determine the size that you're planting. Now, once you decide what you want to do, take a garden hose out there. You know, make the shape in what you want, and determine how big that area is. And if there's grass there, you know, you're going to have to get that out.
Yeah.
And then you're going to determine what kind of environment is that. You know, is it in the sun? Is it in the shade?
So your light conditions.
You got to figure what kind of environment you've got. I mean, is it a low area of your yard? You know, are you going to have to think about maybe some wet plants that like the wet conditions a little bit better? All sorts of things to consider with the environment. You need to prepare the soil. Get it ready for what's going to be there. If you want to take a soil test, this is an excellent time to take a soil test and say what we've got. It might be a new planting in a new yard, or it might be in an established space that, you know, hasn't had a soil test in a long time. So you need to know what you're starting with.
I think that is good. So let me ask you about amendments. How do you feel about adding amendments, you know, to your beds?
You can. You don't. Again, you don't want to do more than 20%. And most plants, the larger the plant is, they really don't need amendments. But the smaller stuff, like the annuals and some of the perennials, and I would use a little bit of amendment and excuse me, in those kind of areas, just because you'll get more plants to grow, and they'll have a better, well-drained soil area for them to be in.
Right.
But the bigger established plants, they don't need any amendment.
That's good to know, because of course, you know, there's a difference of opinions about that. You know, should you amend that site or should you not do it, you know, based on what you're trying to plant? So yeah.
And they can both exist. I mean, you can just amend the first few inches of soil, and the smaller plants will be in that, and the larger plants will be down in the original soil. Because the one thing you don't want to do is amend everything, because then you end up with a bowl that when it waters, the drainage around here is just terrible. Our soils are so tight, and when you amend that much, you just create a bowl that water sits in. You don't want to do that. Okay, so now we're going to choose our plants. Now, there are a lot of publications all across the country. Contact your local extension services. There's probably lists of plants that do well in your areas, and they'll give you different sizes and environments that they like to live in. And you can do your research that way. You can also go to the nursery. You know, once you go to the nursery, you can see all sorts of things you like. But please, read the tags.
Please.
Because the tags will tell you, I mean, I know some people say the tags aren't always quite accurate, but they are going to give you a range of height and size that the plant's going to get to be. And you have to determine if it's got the right light and moisture content for the area you're going to be planting it, and give you an average of how big it's going to be. And is that something that you want there, or do you need to find something different?
Okay.
And then when you find them, you're there at the nursery, just start putting them together in the grouping that you're going to be, you know, there's enough aisle space there. You can start putting them together and decide whether you think they look nice or not together.
Right. So just have fun with it.
Yes, have fun with it.
Have fun with it. I like
yeah,
that.
I mean, you can, it's amazing what you can find out. I actually went to the store, I was buying annuals and perennials. And I thought, oh, that's nice. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that. And had all this stuff in my cart. And I started looking at it in the cart and I went, oh my gosh, everything's fine textured. You know, the colors are pretty, but that just doesn't excite me. There's no coarse or medium textured plants in here. So then I go, okay, so which of these do I like best? Now, okay, I'll put this one back. Now I need to find something with larger leaves.
You have a lot of experience putting beds together, designing beds. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, we've recently done one at the university where we had it was probably about 4 or 5 feet wide bed all along the front of a building. Nice long bed. So to break that up, we did some things. I wanted something evergreen.
Okay.
Because most of the time the students are in school, it's the winter and they needed something evergreen. So I picked Abelia and Dorothy-Yopon holly in there, but I didn't put them all in one line. I put them in groupings here, and then they kind of crossed over and started the other kind, and I put a perennial called Helleborus that would bloom, that has already bloomed, right in around the corners where there was a door, so that something would be blooming, and it's a different texture, and it's a different size than the other plants. Because Abelia has a small leaf, holly's a small leaf, smaller leaf, and then the Helleborus is a large leaf. And but behind those, when I was doing all this, I put hydrangeas. Of course, they're deciduous, but they're going to have a bigger leaf and a bigger bloom in a different time of year.
Got it.
And along the front, some hosta here and there, not a solid line, but just broken up in different parts of the bed. So everything's broken up. It's never a solid line of anything, but it all meshes and goes well together. It's got all the different textures and colors to be throughout the season for interest.
So it's not symmetrical, it's asymmetrical.
Could be, yes.
Could be.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's why you're the expert. That's why we have you on here talking about things like this. Huh?